So let's say you've got an application that uses a large language model or AI agent kind of behind the scenes. Obviously, your app does something already, but you're adding these calls onto it. You've got a lot of decisions to make. Which one provides the best responses? Which is it fast enough for my use case? And obviously, how much does it cost? Because if you're making money with your application, you can't hand all of your money over to the third party. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about another problem you're going to run into, which is when you're not in production, are you still calling this, and how much? And that actually adds up. So I've got a little demo app here called the LLM simulation demo, because what you want to do is actually simulate those downstream calls. But you can't just have it return hello world or some random response. You need realistic behavior, the same latency, and the same kinds of responses. So use the real LLM in production or when you're evaluating the responses, but all the rest of the time you want to use an LLM simulation. So let me show you what this looks like in practice. I'm going to log into the app and run a call, and it'll call different backend systems here. So this is kind of what it looks like. So it's a fun little demo app. And you can see here, I've analyzed the ticket, or maybe I can kick it off to analyze another ticket. I can say pick Anthropic or something like that. And it will go off and kick off the job to go figure out what's going on with this ticket, what's the background, what's the root cause, and then come up with a response to send to the user. Okay, so actually, this one's kind of funny because it looks like it had maybe an error here. But the cost for one call, not a lot, half a cent. But what happens when you start to scale this up? So I ran a scenario of 80 different tickets. And if you look at what this might cost across your entire environment, it could cost tens of thousands of dollars. Well, that's no big deal in production. But what about every time you were checking in your code and it runs through 80 test scenarios, or you run a little load test to see, can we handle 10,000 tickets a day or 50,000 tickets a day? All of a sudden, you will be spending this money over and over and over. So let me show you what you do instead. This is speed scale. I've got this backend instrumented here so I can see the various calls. Let me just refresh and make sure I've got some new data here. So at a glance here, you can see that calls are being made to various different models, and you can actually open up any one of these and see all of the details. So here's exactly how Haiku 4.5 responded in this case, how many tokens it used. This is the real response from Anthropic. I can also see what went in my request. Okay, so here's all of the background data, and the system prompt that's been provided to the model. I can see everything that went in my headers. You're going to say, hey, Ken, don't show that. It's going to have your API key. Yeah, the API key has been redacted. Okay, so you don't have the original data there. But and it works the same way, by the way, for here's a call to Grok, and I can see, if there's any nuances or differences in how Grok responds. What about ChatGPT? Here's the ChatGPT response. You're probably noticing a pattern. They all have a real similar look and feel. So now that I have the data here, how do I build a simulation? Well, it's as easy as hitting save. As soon as I do that, SpeedScale will go off, pull all the data together, and then create the scenario for the mock. So in the mock section here is actually filled in with, in this case, it actually has all the calls to the tools endpoint as well, but I've got every recorded response. It's not hello world, it's the real response that Gemini returned, for example. And if you don't like it, and if you want to change what was returned, you can always come in here and modify it and change the data. But by default, it'll have the same behavior. It will respond with this. It will have this kind of latency. And you can easily deploy this in a ton of different ways. So one is you can run it in your staging environment so that everyone who's hitting the staging API will have a mock behind it. Okay, so all your manual testers and developers who are working with the dev or staging cluster, they've got mocks deployed. You can also pull it down locally and view the data and actually check it in as little markdown files into your own repo. Again, all the keys are redacted, so you're keeping the shape of the API, the latency, and those characteristics, but you don't have any of the sensitive data that you don't want being checked into your source code. And it's as simple as this to deploy. You come in and say, I want to run a replay. You pick your environment where you want to deploy it. I've got this in this LLM simulation namespace, and I actually just want to deploy the service mocks here. So I just flip this, the testing part off. I'm not trying to do tests and that kind of thing right now. And you can pick and choose which APIs get mocked out. So use the real tools endpoint, but mock out all of these expensive endpoints that I don't want to run. And then when you click start, this will go and actually deploy a mock server in the environment all behind the scenes for you. So you can actually view what's going on by going into the infrastructure section and clicking on your cluster and going to the workloads and going to that namespace. And I can see that this responder pod is being installed. Sorry, I clicked on that. But this responder pod is being installed, and that's actually going to pick up the responses. So let's just double check and make sure that it is up and running. And then you can go to your app here, and every time you run one of these calls, well, now it's not going to call the real API anymore. Now it's calling the mock backend. So this is the power of LLM simulation, and if you want to learn more about it, you can read our blog on the topic at speedscale.com. And if this looks like a good fit for you, you can sign up for a free trial. Thank you very much.